Toyota and General Motors are two very different companies. Both companies produce automobiles, but that is where their similarities end. The companies are different in almost every way. In the cars they produce, the values they hold, their management styles, their corporate attitudes, and most importantly, differences in the cultures they come from. An illustration of the differences between the two companies can be seen by simply comparing the two companies' most identifiable cars. GM's monstrous, gas-guzzling, expensive, mediocre quality rated Hummer versus Toyota's 50 mile per gallon, high-tech, reliable, economically priced Prius hybrid. While it is clear that the differences between General Motors and Toyota exist, the crux of the matter is why they exist. While there are several factors that may help explain these differences, inarguably one of the greatest factors is cultural differences. It is differences in East versus West culture and philosophy that shape each company. Both Toyota and General Motors hold the values of its respective culture and apply these values to almost every aspect of the company. Before one may understand the differences between GM and Toyota, one must recognize the differences in their respective cultures. While the West values competition, Eastern values hold that cooperation is more important. The West strives to be the biggest and the best, while the East works for the collective good and efficient operation. Western culture rewards and encourages individuality, but in the East the idea is to be a part of something bigger. In stark contrast to each other, the West is characterized by short-term thinking, whereas the East values long-term vision. All of these differences can clearly be seen in almost every aspect of both Toyota and GM. Toyota is the model of how an automobile manufacturer should be organized and run. Toyota has a very positive image in the automotive market. The company is highly regarded for producing high-quality cars, using advanced technology and engineering that bring great value and bang for your buck to the consumer. Their designs set global standards for safety, reliability, and ease of maintenance. In short, Toyota's cars are affordable and reliable, which are two qualities extremely attractive for potential buyers. Giving Toyota a great advantage over its Western counterparts, the company as a whole is organized and run using Eastern societal values and principles. More importantly, these values and principles are diligently followed and affect the entirety of the corporation. Reflecting Eastern values, Toyota is run based on long-term strategies, thinking, and goals. The effects of Eastern culture on the company perhaps can best be seen in Toyota's treatment of its employees. Workers are the core of the company. Every single employee is equally valued, from the executives to the assembly line workers. One of the reasons this is so is because every employee knows his or her role in the company and knows that without that job, Toyota would not be what it is today and would not produce such great products. Every employee is a part of something greater and takes pride in Toyota and its products. This shift away from individualism can be witnessed in the fact that there is no Mr. Toyota figurehead. There is no executive shaking things up by making rash short-term decisions. Simply put, cooperation for the greater good is valued above the individual. In addition to efficient and organized employees, Toyota uses efficient and organized production processes and use of high technology, giving the organization a competitive advantage in the industry while keeping costs down. The goals of efficiency and organization come from the Eastern culture and contribute to the reliability and affordability Toyota has come to personify. While Toyota may be seen as the pinnacle of the industry, General Motors is conversely seen as a company in trouble. GM has been the world's #1 automaker since 1931. However, in 2006, Toyota is projected to overtake this title from GM. General Motors as a whole is a company in a huge financial crisis and on the brink of bankruptcy. GM is in trouble for a number of reasons. Each one of these reasons relates back to the Western culture in which GM exists. Fundamentally, General Motors' organization reflects the values traditionally held by Western societies. Western culture values the biggest and the best, and this mentality has led to a huge, bloated company. While Toyota has long-standing set-in-stone corporate values, GM seems to have no corporate vision and no corporate philosophy. Sell more cars seems to be it. Starting with Henry Ford and continuing to this day, American automobile companies have relied on high-profile executives to run the company and to determine corporate vision and strategy. As an example of Western corporate leadership values, and as opposed to there being no Mr. Toyota, Lee Iacocca, former Chrysler chairman, is among the most widely recognized businessmen in the world. General Motors follows this pattern and is organized with top-heavy management and has relied on its executives and their short-term thinking. Again, in direct contrast with Toyota, General Motors is inefficient in almost every way. One of the best ways to illustrate this, and to illustrate Western culture's influence on the company, is by examining GM's workforce. In brief, General Motors has a highly compensated workforce dominated by individualism. General Motors' bloated workforce gives it an extreme competitive disadvantage in the auto industry. Adding to this disadvantage is the fact that all GM plants are unionized. Furthermore, GM's employees are far more costly than Toyota's. GM faces paying higher wages, extremely high healthcare costs, and even higher costs to retired employees. In addition to inefficient employees, GM's production techniques are far less efficient than Toyota's. All these factors create a huge competitive disadvantage for the company. Reflecting Western individualism, the concept of the greater good is non-existent among GM employees. Unlike Toyota, GM employees have no sense of pride or cooperation. GM's workforce and all of its negative characteristics can be linked to Western individualism, as well as the lack of a strong corporate philosophy and vision. Differences in Toyota and General Motors, and thus differences in East versus West culture, can be seen through comparing statistics between the two companies. From the two statistics seen here, one can see Toyota must be doing something right. The company's strategies, philosophies, and methods are working to fulfill Toyota's goals. An extremely important statistic in the automotive industry is the amount of money made or lost on each vehicle sold. The fact that GM loses over $2,000 for every vehicle sold goes to the core of General Motors' problems. The company is bloated, employing an inefficient production system and inefficient and expensive employees. This goes to the heart of East versus West, efficient versus inefficient. Further demonstrating the difference in efficiency among the two companies is plant capacity utilization. One can also draw conclusions from looking at each company's North American workforce. From these statistics, it is obvious Toyota's workforce is lean and productive. GM has a huge burden of retired employees, which furthers its competitive disadvantage. But it is not only retirees that further this disadvantage. General Motors has a healthcare cost per vehicle of $1,525 compared to Toyota's $201. In conclusion, Toyota's corporate philosophy and values reflect Eastern culture. Eastern culture penetrates nearly every aspect of the company and has led to a highly productive, efficient, and cost-effective company known for quality and value. General Motors reflects Western individualism and ideals. Lacking cooperation for the greater good concept, the company is organized and run inefficiently, suffering from huge cost and competitive disadvantages. In terms of automotive industry management, the culture of the East conquers that of the West. Western culture and companies need to learn from the extremely effective and efficient habits of Toyota.